Greetings and salutations, not half pop pickers, out of Unit 1 into Unit 2. And how about a little bit of ABC of CBD, all right? Not half pop pickers. Hello, I'm what's left of Russ Kane. It is only the temperature of the sun out there. And if one person says on social media, stay hydrated, I'm just going to get like a gallon of water, just pour it over their head. We know that. We're not 12. We understand. This is the ABC of CBD. One of my favorite hours of the week. It's beyond cool. It's ridiculously cool, and that's the only thing that's cool at the moment. He's already said, I had a chat with you know who a moment ago, and he says I look like a southern truck driver. That's what I get. That's what I get for making this, plucking him from obscurity and making him a star. You know him. You love him. He's the Count of Cannabinoids. He is the Hunk of Hemp. He is the Maharaja of marijuana. He is Mr. Ollie Mammon.
Stay hydrated, everybody.
Oh.
Come on, you set me up for that. How are you, my truck driving friend? How is everything on the what's it called, on Route 66?
I'm all right. I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay. Kind of. You all right? With your Dave Grohl lookalike ways?
Yeah, so I've had COVID the last week.
Oh yes, I forgot you had COVID. What was going on? I don't
really understand what the big deal is all about.
Oh, well, that's because you're 12 years old and not my age, because it kills you.
It's ruined a few of my plans, and I'm one of those dudes. When I got out, I was like, I don't want to get old people sick, so I haven't gone out really the last 10 days.
Old people sick.
But in general, don't get it. As in, like, I actually don't think I've got COVID. I think I just had false positives for a whole week because it doesn't make sense unless I'm going to crash tomorrow. But either way, for anyone who's suffered,
so do you have any symptoms?
I do. No symptoms.
Do you have no symptoms?
No, zero, nothing. No, I've even had my taste. I've had everything. Like, literally, it's been.
You got no symptoms at all.
I've been coming up thick on the red line, like a proper thick red line.
Then you got COVID. It's not a false positive, like false Nate pregnant. You got COVID.
What I'm saying is that actually, let me rephrase it. I'm really lucky that I've had COVID the last week and it's hit me the way it's hit me. I'm really sorry to anyone who suffers.
Other people who are feeling diabolical. I've got so many friends who were dropping down. I was at my friend's birthday party on Monday night. My best pal. 20 people dropped out because of COVID. 20.
Makes sense.
Out of 80. I mean, that's
a big number.
Let's pay the rent, shall we, gang?
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really.
That should work.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD, a product created by users for users. I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD, a product created by users for users, a product at an affordable price, available everywhere at any time at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil, no additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service, the cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
The sheer annoyance of inanimate objects. How dare it not play when I press the button? Ridiculous. It played eventually. It played what?
It played 3 times.
Oh, good. Well, there you go. You got more impact.
But the good thing is the first time ever that we had a little running commentary behind. Bloody hell! What the hell is going on? It was playing, which is quite funny.
You're lucky. That's all I'm saying at the moment. Dear me. Right.
Stay calm. You're not in your truck. You're live on the radio. Okay. We have people listening. It's
America, so I'll be like this.
I'm not allowed to swear. You're not allowed to swear. It's fair exchange.
I don't swear. You're Mr. Potty Mouth. Anyway, you, Mister, have a very nice guest and a special guest too.
Her? Yeah, let's do it. So we're joined today by Rhea Green. Some of you might know Rhea Green. If you don't, she is what I like to call the Green Queen. I actually met Rhea at one of the first CBD expos I attended, I think 2018. I met Rhea. She was wandering around, this incredibly warm, different, confident, enigmatic character. And sorry, my phone's
I
going
love that.
mental. I'm just trying to turn this
saw her
off.
and she was wandering around and I just thought, well, I'll just go over and say hello.
Yeah,
Well,
basically,
hello.
first of all, I'm really sorry about this. My for some reason my computer's going into a bit of a fritz. Give me 1 second.
That's okay. Relax.
Putting do not disturb on.
Relax.
I'm just going to
It's
kind of
very
go
interesting.
back.
Ollie says this. You sort yourself up. I've had all sorts of stuff. This morning, my email system decided not to work at all. So I had to get the great Phil Dave to sort that out. And then seriously, all sorts of, I think it's the heat and Brexit.
I'm back. I'm good.
You're back. Okay.
So there we go. We're good. I'm sorry about that. So yeah. So basically,
see Rhea Green wandering around.
Yeah, see Rhea Green wandering around, and she actually came up to the stall, and I started speaking to her. And sometimes you just get on with people. You like their energy, you like the way they think, you like the way they interact. I really liked Rhea the first time I met her. Now, over the last few years, I've casually bumped into Rhea several times. Different expos, different events. Bumped into her at Glastonbury, which is kind of lucky.
Bit random.
Two of the luckiest sons of bitches to walk the face of the planet, being able to attend Glastonbury this year. So that was kind of really nice bumping into her. Now, the thing is with Rhea, and when you meet her, you'll know what I mean. It's like she lives and she breathes this fantastic education. She's helped thousands of people. She's been involved in this world of herbology for a lot longer than she's been involved in the world of cannabis. So she kind of came into this world already having an understanding of plants, of what's it called, traditional, ancient, or non-traditional ways of healing. These non-traditional, pharmaceutical ways of understanding medicine. She's always had an understanding about that. She had a broader understanding than most people I had met. And it was quite nice actually to interact with someone who saw cannabis as another tool in this world of herbology, as opposed to jumping on the cannabis bandwagon, which means she already had a foundational understanding of this world, probably more than most people in this world. She really is a formidable mind in our industry. She's, like I said, helped thousands of people. She's a co-founder of Green Queen magazine. She's an activist. She's an advocate. She's a speaker. She's had years of experience in the hydroponic industry. She's had years of experience working with these alternative medicine clinics. She's helped so many people in so many ways, not only using cannabis, but over the last few years, you could call it her interest in cannabis and her affiliation to it has grown and grown and grown. And what is just nice is that she wasn't like a lot of us when we started in this world of cannabis. Cannabis was our first, like cannabis is what we believe in, and all of these other herbs, they kind of come off of the back of that. I feel like with Rhea, the rest of this herbology was her foundation, and cannabis is just on top. And it's quite nice seeing the way different brain functions.
It's a reverse order.
Yeah, probably the right way of seeing it.
Yeah, nice.
It's the right way of seeing it.
I like that word, herbologist. I don't think we've used that before.
I don't think it's a real word. I think I just made it up.
Doesn't matter. It's a great word. And, expelliarmus isn't a real word, and everybody says it. So who the hell cares?
Exactly.
Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Rhea.
Hi guys, thank you so much for what a fabulous introduction that was, Ollie. How can I beat that?
No, but it's very
just
true.
Say good night, thanks very much. Quit while you're ahead, Rhea. That's what I'd do.
It is
very true. You should always go to these events with two of you and introduce each other, because when your friend introduces you, they do such a fabulous job, and when you introduce yourself, it's like, oh.
Or if you introduce yourself, you sound like a cocky prick. And if someone else introduces you, you sound like an absolute legend. And it's just like, all right, saying the same thing, guys. But it is one thing. That's the one thing which always stood out about you. Is you had this extremely wide, broad education about all the things which I'm trying to learn about now before you entered this world of cannabis. And you've got this incredible foundation, which you've, added more herbs into, as opposed to learning about herbs with cannabis being your number one. I always found that to be, I would say, your most powerful trait is this understanding you actually have. No, and I remember the first time I met you, I looked at you and I was like, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you because you think differently to everyone else. And it's one of those things, I've now had the opportunity to actually say it live in front of people, so I can't take it back, but generally it's what I actually did think and feel, and it's what I've always felt about you. And you know, after we bumped into each other at Glastonbury, my buddy's like, who is that? I was like, yeah, she's one of the local witches. Everything which we want to learn, she already knows it. Proper magician. It's just it's the way I introduce you. It's the way I talk about you. And, you know, I've got a lot of, you know, awe and admiration for you. And, you know, I'm so thankful to you for all the people you've helped, you know, and for all the guidance you've given, all of the hands you've helped, or all the hands you've held, the lost souls who you've helped find their way. So, you know, just on behalf of the community,
here, Rhea,
thank you.
You've done very little for me. I don't mind saying it. I'm putting it out there. Very little. You know, my boxes are still all over my home. There's no clearing up being offered. Nothing. If you're wondering what I do here, Rhea, it's because Ollie won't do a show unless I'm here. And I keep saying, Ollie, you really, take the training wheels off the bicycle. You're great now. This is show 85.
Sometimes if you're a fantastic team, you've just got to accept that you're a fantastic team.
He just won't do it. So I'm always like the gooseberry when you two are on like a date. I feel like I should be sort of, you know.
You're my chaperone.
I'm the chaperone.
You can be my chaperone, Russ.
I'll be your chaperone. I prefer that. I'm going to be your chaperone, Rhea. So you can
provide all the dad jokes for the occasion.
That's great. I will do that. I'm there. How long have you got?
Yes, so Ollie found me wandering around a cannabis conference back in 2018. And I have actually, believe it or not, been in the cannabis industry for 24 years. I said it out loud the other day and I was like, oh. And when I say that, basically, my uncle had a hydroponic shop and a snooker table in the back. So we used to go and play snooker out the back. And when customers used to come, we used to be like, oh, customers, let's go and get them out the shop as quick as possible. So we learned how to, well, bearing in mind, it was like 1998. So 1998. So the food rack was this big and there was only NFT and soil. So it wasn't that much to learn, not compared to now. But it's hilarious to think that these are qualifications because you never thought that you'd ever tell this stuff to anybody. So I was lucky enough to grow weed from an early age. My mum's always been a cannabis patient. She's got MS. She's always used cannabis for her MS. And I helped her grow weed from when I was at school. And we used to tuck in my school uniform to go and deal with the customers in the hydro shop. But simultaneously, what that allowed me to do is study. So kind of from 18, I was a bit of a serial student. So my qualification is holistic therapy. And I think that's a nice term of what is holistic. Well, it's talking about everything. And alongside that became like a reflexology, aromatherapy, non-medical nutrition, and general health and well-being. And I think one of the biggest things that the health qualifications taught me is when looking at alternative medicine, it's dealing with the root of the problem, whereas conventional medicine is just constantly dealing with a symptom. So it's dealing with the symptom of the problem rather than dealing with the cause of the problem. And that's why people get stuck on these pharmaceutical cocktails for
and they got stuck in the trap. You know? They get stuck in this trap and this loop, and it's, you know, one pill to fix another pill to fix another pill to fix another pill, and it's like
the
side effects.
I speak to people that are on like 15 tablets, and you say, "What tablets are you on?" And they say, "I'm on." And first, you say, "Are you in pain?" And the answer is yes, because that's why they're talking to you. And then you say, "Well, are the painkillers working?" Well, no, because I'm still in pain. And you go, "Well, what medicines are you taking?" And it's like codeine, ibuprofen, tramadol, gabapentin, or something like these, like really horrific, harsh painkillers. And then you've got things like digestive things, acid indigestion problems. People have got piles. Sometimes I'll speak to people with cancer and their biggest problem is piles because they're on loads of codeine, and that's the thing that's causing them the most discomfort. So every one of these pharmaceutical medicines has got a list of side effects in the pack. Whereas if you look at cannabis medicine, we've been interacting with the cannabis plant from before we could even write it down, you know, from day dot. So we've consumed this plant for forever. And how that works on the body, no one really knows exactly how it works. It just works. And the detrimental effects are very small, if any. You know, like the worst thing is you get too stoned. The worst thing you can do to a patient is give them too much too soon and then get scared of the medicine. What is it? An overdose of cannabis is called a good night's sleep.
And I understand what Rhea is.
Can I wind a little bit back, Rhea? I can't help noticing. Is this Midlands that I'm hearing? Birmingham?
It is from Birmingham, but I now live in Glastonbury. I escaped.
Very
Birmingham
nice.
when I had my son.
Well done, you.
She lives in the best place in the world. Once a year, that little village in Glastonbury becomes the best
that would drive
place
me mad.
in the world.
If I lived in some gorgeous little place and once a year 200,000 oiks turned up, I'd get so annoyed.
Hold on,
unless I was running a shop, in which case
Russ, if you actually think about the numbers, it's more than 200,000. There is about 200,000 ticketed. There are 200,000 ticketed ticket holders. Then there's about 50,000 employees and 50,000 people who jump the gates. You've got about 300,000 people in this little perfect nook of the world. It's amazing.
Very interesting. Ria, I'm sorry, I don't want to digress, but I was looking at as a map, an aerial photo of where you live normally and where you live during Glastonbury. Holy moly. Unbelievable.
Well, it's really interesting. If you want to go into depth, you could actually start.
No, I really don't. No, I really don't.
Sorry, Ross, we're already there.
Oh, okay.
So the festival culture is ingrained in Glastonbury, and actually it's been there for 50 years. But what it is, it's a container for underground culture. It allows emerging things that are kind of in the underground to hit mainstream. And Glastonbury is an example of how that works as a container. Glastonbury doesn't actually do anything. It just facilitates the thing, it just facilitates the culture. It doesn't say what's the most popular act of the year.
It's a tunnel.
It facilitates a space, yeah.
It's a tunnel. It's a tunnel which anyone can drive through if he or she who wants to drive through is right to drive through the tunnel.
In fact, it's the tunnel that Ria Green used to escape Birmingham. Get them
indeed
without being
seen. I came to Glastonbury to do a festival that was a micro festival that was set up by Sunbird, the guy who organised Sunrise Gathering 10 years ago, and it was all about like the gathering of the tribes. It was to do with like gathering, and we did one, it was a bit psychedelic, and then the second one was no drink, no drugs, and it was like a ceremonial. It had like cacao ceremonies and like herbal potions and sassafras and stuff like that. That was all kind of not legal highs, herbal highs. And that went really well. So it was this adaptation of like creating a space that becomes a container for a celebration, basically, of like the reason why Sunbird did it was because we're in Glastonbury, festival culture is ingrained in everybody goes and works the festivals, and then they go to India or they get stuff from India and they bring it back to selling the fit. So there's an ecosystem that's involved with festivals as well. So Sunbird started the TLC gatherings at the start of the season, at the end of the season. So it was March and September. So it was to do with getting the crew ready and prepared and testing the crew before you took them out on the road. Also getting all the kit out and making sure all the tents didn't need fixing or there was no mold, and fixing like the physical stuff. But what it meant was everybody kind of like had a hub to gather before and afterwards and kind of share what they've learned over the summer and what they're expecting and what they're planning to do and how they're going to meet up and if there's any collaboration. And then at the end in September was like the gathering of all the things that they found, the music that they loved, the acts that they found, the things that they're going to do. And a lot of this is from like old traveller culture, which is like where Stonehenge Festival and Glastonbury Festival first originated, and it was to do with the travellers and the freedom to roam. It's quite a deep subject. It's huge, and actually festival culture is the way that I believe in the UK. It's the place where the underground meets mainstream, and I think that's what we're trying to do with the Cannabis magazine as well. It's like there's an underground culture where all the magic happens, and every so often it's like a wave. It peaks to the top, mainstream see it, they love it, and then it goes back underground again for a little bit and then comes back up as something different. So
if I can interject here,
the whole thing reminds me of
Russ, wait. If I can interject here, because this is actually quite important. So we're talking about, this underground, and then we're talking about the overground, and you almost have this subculture and you have the culture as we know it. And I've actually it's actually led on quite nicely to this question. Okay. Like you say now that, you said at the start of the show, I've been working in cannabis for 24 years. Now it's only really in the last 3 or 4 years that you can actually really expel and vocalize that comment without receiving some form of judgment. So you can actually, actually turn around and say, I've been doing this for so long and not really have any fear of reprisal. It's kind of come to a point now where you can say the experience you've had in this industry, how long your hidden knowledge has been crafted for, how long you've actually been invested in this space without getting in trouble. So up until recently, I never discussed the fact that I've been involved with cannabis since I was 15 years old. So I've been involved in cannabis for 19 years. And now you can say that, because when you first say that I've been involved in cannabis since I was 15 years old, you originally get this idea of what was wrong with him. Now it's, all right, this is where his education comes from. And it's almost...
I had the most bizarre... I had this in Switzerland. I went to a Switzerland business meeting, and they was like, where did you start? And it was the first time I ever kind of give the truth about where I actually started. I used to grow weed in my attic, and I was like, this is the most bonkers thing I've ever done. But
why am I saying this? But you can now. But now you can. And it's quite nice, because we're living in this world, we're living in this space where appreciation for cannabis is there, understanding for the fact that, you know, people have been studying this and immersing themselves in this culture for a very long time, and people want to deal with people who actually know what they're talking about. And someone who says, I've been involved in the cannabis industry since the beginning, when's the beginning? 5 years ago, it's not that much experience. I mean, if your doctor only had 5 years experience, you wouldn't let him cut you open. And if your lawyer only had 5 years experience, you wouldn't pay him the extortionate fees to defend you in court. You just wouldn't do it. You want to be doing business with someone who actually understands.
The cannabis industry is completely different than anything else. There's nothing to stand it next to, because it's literally making its own rules as it goes. So how I describe it is, and so we talk about it being like female led, and I thought a long time about it. But how do we become female but not exclude the men? And how do we not become too feminist and too weird about like being the women's voice? And we kind of explored what is the way, how do women tell the story? How would women tell it differently to men? And one of the things was just to make it really beautiful, to make it a really beautiful thing. So the
hi,
to make it a really beautiful thing. And then the other thing is about women is it's a circle. So women have circles, men have lines. Do you know what I mean? It's in the body. And the women's way is this collaborative circular model. Now, if we look at cannabis, there's nobody in the world who is the expert on cannabis. There's not one person you can go to and say, answer all the questions about weed. What condition needs what strain?
Yeah, you're
what
right.
needs what. So there's lots of little people, i.e., patients and people that have actually tried it, and people that have been doing it on the black market or aren't necessarily conventionally recognized through medical establishments. They're the ones that have more knowledge on this subject than the professors and the doctors. So we're in a really unique position where there's no other way to do it but this circular model, because what we bring into the table is so vastly different, and we've got such a little piece of the bigger puzzle, you know. But together we can build this global narrative about how cannabis helps people and the land and the environment and the ecosystem and the economy.
What flavour is that?
Yeah, I really want an ice cream. It's not fair. We're on stage. We can't have ice cream. You're having ice cream. You're just making us jealous. I mean, it's not cool.
That?
Also, I think you might be...
Is vanilla and what, darling?
I think you might be the only human with longer hair than me.
Vanilla flavour.
Nice.
Your hair is so long. I'm so jealous.
And also, talking about the children.
Back, Ria, I'd like to wind back, if you don't mind, Ollie, of course.
Go for it.
And that was when you said at the beginning that your mother, who had MS, because this is my interest, the rest of it is peripheral to me. It's fine. Leave her alone. It's not a problem. Not a problem. Nice. Please let her do her
kids
thing.
In the show.
How old is she?
7.
Oh, 7. Bless her. All of life to play for. Your mother had MS, and she was.
My mother was still with us. She got diagnosed with MS when she was 28, and she got told by the doctor she wouldn't live till she's 40. She's now 56. She's used cannabis.
I met
that was my question. That's my question.
I met your mother at one of the expos. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's got a fantastic brain on her as well.
Well, we've done it together. We've done this whole process together. And basically, what happened was my mum had a cancer scare 6 years ago. And I did what every good daughter did and made a load of Rick Simpson oil and sent her to a specialist in London who told her how to do a whole fast, and she did like an 8-month fast and changed her diet and took vitamins and other things as well. But we made her oil, and my mum being my mum, every time that she met anybody with any illness, she gave them all their oil. She every opportunity to just give people oil. And I was like, where are we going to get more oil from, Mum? And she's like, it's all right. You could just make more. And I'm like, okay. So
it's not that easy, Mum. It's not that easy.
So what happened with the cancer scare?
She went to a biofrequency specialist in London, and he scanned her body because she had a lump in her breast. And she said that at the time, my uncle had just died of throat cancer really horribly in the hospital. So she was petrified of going to the hospital. She didn't even want to go to the doctor. She was like, I'm not doing that. I'll die before I go to the hospital. They're not going to do to him what they've done what they've done to him. So we went to a frequency medicine, and he actually said she's got a stage 2 in her breast and a stage 4 cancer in her bone from a pork parasite that had been there for a long time. So she then did like big parasite flushes. She did liver flushes. She went on like some fasting detoxes. She did loads of emotional work. It wasn't just a one size. She found a program that fit her, and it took about 9 months for her to really clear herself and be healthy. And from that journey, then we've kind of built the tools as well. So we've now got a clinic in Glastonbury with one of the devices that my colleague used to diagnose my mum. It's frequency medicine. That's a whole conversation in its own, and that's amazing. And one of the biggest problems especially with cancer with patients, is how do you track whether it's working or not? Because what tends to happen when you go down the conventional route with the doctors. So what happens is when you're a cancer patient, you go to the doctors, and the doctor then refers you to the hospital, and then you are under the hospital's care, and they can offer you their care package. So that is chemo, radio, and then they'll retest you after 3 months to see whether the cancer's grown, and then they'll give you another set of treatment, surgery. So it's very limited what they can offer you, and they won't ever give you diet advice. They won't ever give you lifestyle advice. That's their treatment plan. And then sometimes, because you're having patients that are using oil, they want to go back, don't want to have the chemo, but want to go back and have the test in 3 months. And because you haven't followed the conventional treatment plan, they won't give you the test. They say, oh, we won't give you the test unless you've had the chemo. And because
so I've got a buddy of mine who had that. He has prostate cancer. He stopped doing his conventional treatments, started a cannabis regime because the conventional treatments weren't helping him. And he found it very, very difficult to go for PSI scans, etc., etc. He couldn't get his readings.
You can't go to BUPA, because BUPA, so any private medicine, because you're still under the care of a patient of the hospital, that means that you can't go to a private clinic, because if their diagnostic contradicts the NHS diagnostic, there's a potential lawsuit, so they won't do a private scan. So there's all these complications that once you take the conventional conveyor about of treatment. But what the diagnostic machine does in a really non-invasive, easy way is it allows you to track your progress through frequency medicine. So you can tell whether the cancer's grown, whether it's moved, whether it's done anything, whether there's other things in the system, whether there's parasites, pathogens, bacteria, fungal infections, viruses. It can tell you how much the organ's been affected, what other organs are affected, what medicines are beneficial or detrimental to that. So the information that these devices can do is like above and beyond, and it's not necessarily recognized by conventional science, but it's old technology. It's Tesla and Royal Raymond Rife technology, which are both, like, Tesla's 100-year-old technology, and I think Royal Raymond Rife was like the 30s, so nearly 100-year-old technology as well. So there's a lot of alternative practices that help with not only the treatment but also the diagnostic stage, because that can be really tricky. And then we're just talking about cancer. I mean, there's some diseases that they can go for like 3 or 4 years and not know what they are, like fibromyalgia, ME, lupus, Crohn's, MS. And what tends to happen is you go down, again, the conventional path. You go to the doctor says, oh, I think you've got MS. You wait for 8 months to get a specialist appointment. You go to the appointment, they say it's not MS, it's fibromyalgia. You go back to the doctor tells you need a specialist appointment. You go and get a specialist appointment, it takes 8 months. They tell you haven't got fibromyalgia, you've got to go back to the doctor. But the device gives you a level of accuracy immediately. And this is something that I've been exploring for about 6 years alongside the cannabis stuff, because the thing is, what I say about cannabis medicine is it alleviates the immediate problem and allows you to do the lifestyle change that caused the problem in the first place. You can't expect to continue to live the way that's caused you to be ill and just take cannabis and get better. You also need to address the things that were making you ill, whether it's a bad diet, whether it's loads of stress, whether it's not sleeping. You have to do the other stuff as well, the basics, you know.
And that's the nail on the head right there, because one of the biggest problems in our community is that cannabis is seen as a fix-all. And whereas cannabis is very beneficial and it can provide a lot of relief from specific ailments, there is still this lifestyle change. So let's say they found out tomorrow that there was a specific cannabinoid that helped you lose weight. If you had this cannabinoid and you ate a whole bunch of crap, you're not going to lose weight. Do you understand it? Like with everything in this world, you know, if you're paddling upstream, you're not going to go anywhere. If you're paddling downstream, you are. So cannabis will help you to paddle, but you've got to make sure you're facing the right direction. If you want to go with the river, you've got to paddle downstream. If you want to go against the river, you paddle upstream. And
that goes for any diet. But
it says that. But a lot of people in the cannabis industry will push this narrative that, you know, cannabis is the be all and end all, and this whole idea of, you know, lifestyle change and other treatments around it are very important, because what it does is it gives an individual a clearer understanding of what they actually need to do in their life to make a change. And, you know, we see it a lot where people will use cannabis-based products or other medicinal-based products as a cover-up. And it doesn't help solve the problem, doesn't help actually give a solution.
I think what cannabis does is, a lot of time for clients, there's like a crossroads where it's, do I take these doctor recommended pharmaceutical based things that are the solution, whether it's an antidepressant, whether it's a painkiller, whether it's an epilepsy medicine, whether it's chemo, and what cannabis does is it allows them to take a choice that gives them back their power, so that they feel like they're in control of their treatment plan. Because a lot of the time that's so overwhelming to be told you've got cancer, you know, just to be told you've got cancer and to just sit with that.
Russ has a lot of experience with this. Russ has had personal journeys in this world, and he understands how difficult that journey of cancer is. It's a really hard one, and it hasn't got easier in recent years. You know, like, more of us are getting it, you know, and fine, yes, more of us are getting cured, but still more of us are getting it, and it's still it's a war. It is a war of a journey, and you know, Ross knows firsthand.
I've got a nutritionalist, a friend of mine, and he does a fantastic talk, and he basically starts the talk with, there's only two things that make us ill: malnutrition and toxification. So if you detoxify and you give your body everything it needs to rebuild itself with healthy vitamins and minerals, then it can. And we're just the filters of our environment. And in the same way as environment is everything in the grow room, environment is everything to any human organism. And as we get into a more toxic environment, it makes complete sense that we're going to be sicker, because we're such a delicate system. You know, we've got a lot of systems, like, say, for example, the weight conversation. Well, the weight's all about your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is about your adrenal glands. And are you drinking 10 cups of coffee a day? It's like, these are the questions that doctors don't ask. But actually, from a holistic therapist point of view, when you do it, in principle, this is food for thought, is when you're a massage therapist, you should do 15 to 20 minute consultation with every client to get a really vigorous understanding of their medical situation. If you go to a doctor's, they expect to have had a full description of your ailment and prescribed a potentially deadly pharmaceutical in 6 minutes, which is less than a McDonald's. So some of the questions that you ask when you're a therapist are things like, are you stressed? And somebody will go, no. And you go, are you stressed at home? Are you stressed at work? Are you stressed at something? And they go, oh, I'm not stressed at home, but I'm really stressed at work. I hate my boss. I can't stand going in. I get acid indigestion every time I go to the office in the morning. But when you ask them, they don't tell you. When you say, how's your diet? Everybody, no matter how bad their diet is, says, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I eat well. I eat well.
Yeah.
How many glasses of water you drink? How many am I supposed to drink? Yeah, I drink that many. Do you know what I mean?
I know we don't want to talk about hydration, but that's another thing that people lie about. When you say, do you drink water? And they go, yeah. And you go, what water? And they go, oh, flavoured water with aspartame, or 5 cups of coffee, or I only drink Diet Coke. So the whole thing is like, no wonder we're sick, because
Russ only drinks whiskey and only smokes cigars. That is his diet.
I liked him. I liked him.
If you can't smoke it or drink it and it's alcoholic based, Russ wants nothing to do with it.
You definitely might be a trucker, you know, Russ.
Right, he's such a trucker. He's a trucker.
I think it's because I've discovered a new little cafe near where I am, and it's in the middle of an industrial estate, and I'm the only person in this cafe not wearing a high-vis jacket. It's my new go-to place, because I'm going to the recycling place all the time at the moment for reasons I've explained to Ollie, but I'm not going to bore you with. And I fit right in there now. All I need is the high-vis jacket. And
Look at the hat. I do love him.
So this is quite a rare hat, actually, Rhea. It's quite rare. It's an Airstream. It's an Airstream caravan hat from the States.
That's pretty fucking epic.
Yeah, it is.
Airstreams are dope.
Airstream's good.
If I rent an Airstream, will you come to Glastonbury with me?
No.
Oh, I asked. I tried. You got any questions for her, or can I carry on?
I've got tons of questions, but
go on, ask away.
I wouldn't even know where to start. My problem was with, I'm going to say alternative, but no. First of all, I want to go back to your mum, because I think it's important. She obviously found it beneficial. She's still with us, which went against conventional prescription, as you might say. What would happen, and this is a hypothetical question, Rhea, what would happen if she stopped taking the cannabis, or what do you think would happen?
Well, sometimes don't forget, we've been doing it for a long time, and sometimes if the weed gets shit, all the symptoms come back. So if she only smokes cheese, she only smokes UK cheese. She doesn't smoke anything else. She's really funny about it.
For the uninitiated, could you explain what all that?
So
I don't understand any of that.
Cheese is a strain. It's more on the indica side. It's very strong, very subduing. Almost provides a couch lock effect. Very pain relieving, very analgesic, very numbing, and very it's subduing in the most positive way. So there's very little. There's very little anxiety from it.
Mum's the connoisseur of connoisseurs. Mum's been telling people that they've got terrible weed for as long as I can remember. And if it's not strong, it doesn't relieve the symptoms. So sometimes, through circumstances, we won't be able to get good weed, and all her symptoms will start coming back. She won't be able to sleep. She'll start dragging her leg.
Very telling. It's very telling. Now, you mentioned, Rhea, about 20 minutes ago, the dreaded word, tramadol. I was put on tramadol. And after
gabapentin.
And after 3 days, I was hooked. It was disgusting, and it was awful. It's the only time in my life I've ever been addicted to. It was horrendous, and I took myself off it, obviously, as swiftly as I could. And then I find that other people, and I've had this conversation on my other shows, and said, "Well, I've been on tramadol for like 2 years," and I'm going, matey, after 3 days. I was flying around the room. It's horrendous.
We've had
we had a client ring me, and she, bearing in mind we get a degree of different ailments and ages and problems, and some are more severe than others. But I had a lady really, really, really distressed on the phone to me because a doctor had told her that she can't take tramadol anymore. And he basically took her in and said, "You've been on this, I think it was like 5 years or 7 years." And it was like, "You've been on this for 5 years. This is the maximum. We can't give you any more painkillers. You've got to come off them. You're going to have liver damage and you're going to have liver and kidney damage." And she spoke to me for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes about all the things she wouldn't be able to do if she didn't take tramadol. She was like, "I won't be able to take the kids to school. I won't be able to." And it all started from a knee injury, that she had a knee injury. And I was like, "Is the tramadol working? Are you out of pain?" She's like, "No, the pain's horrific." But
it doesn't take away the pain, does it?
It doesn't take away the pain.
It never takes away the pain.
We give her a topical, so we just give her a cannabis-infused coconut oil to use topically, and within 2 days,
like a balm I gave you, Ross, like the balm I gave you for your wrist.
So she come off all her painkillers in 2 days. She's been on them for 5 years.
5 years of if you're listening, if you're watching and listening,
topical, and she rung me crying, and she was one of the most distressed people that I've spoken to, and actually, it was all in her mind. I speak to people that have got stage 4 cancer and leukemia, and they're in a different state of panic. They're like calm panic. But she was absolutely distraught of being told that she wouldn't be able to take tramadol anymore. And actually, she didn't need it.
So it's a shocker, isn't it? It's an absolute shocker. And if you're watching and listening around the world and wondering why I was sort of reacting in that way when Rhea said this lady had been on it for 5 years, I promise you I had sciatica. I would have quite happily died. It was the most painful I've ever had. It was agony. I mean, absolute agony. And
so
3 days of this.
The truth about the cannabis industry is, for every patient cured is a customer lost. And for somebody who's cured for using a cannabis balm that's a fraction of the cost of these tramadol, and people are on them, and not only tramadol but the cocktail that goes alongside them, because you've got other effects and other things, and they don't actually
I had to
work.
take stuff to counteract for my stomach, obviously.
There we go. You've got to
you
line your wall, and then you get constipated, and you got to get and then you got to take D blockers, and then you get hemorrhoids, and then you got to take something for the hemorrhoids, and then you end up having a bad reaction to that. So you've got to go in and have something else put on.
Go through people's list. When you actually go through people's, I suggest that to anybody who's on like a lot of pharmaceuticals, just take your health into your own hands and just sit there with a list of what they are, why you're taking them, and are they working, and just read through the side effects and see whether you're suffering from any of the side effects, because a lot of people don't even bother to look, and then they have another problem and they're like, oh, what is it? It's a side effect of the thing that you're already taking, but nobody's done the due diligence to go through those things, because
of course, but you know what it's like, Ria. We live in the real world. You get a packet of pills, you think, oh, thank God I've got these, and what's the first thing you do? You throw away the pamphlet that comes with the pills. Everybody does that. I don't know anybody who sits there and goes, oh, I must read all of this. This is why cannabis is such a disruptor, because it forces people to take their health back into their own hands. And actually, I believe that the biggest problem we have with health is the fact that we think that somebody else can sort it out for us. Nobody knows your body better than you. And actually, if you were given the right tools and support to heal yourself, that's your body's job. Your body wants to heal itself. You know?
I agree with that. No one knows what you're feeling better than you. And as a patient, it's very hard for you to turn around you should never turn around to a doctor and be like, you know, I don't think I'm feeling right. It's, I don't feel right. You should never ask a question based on an emotion that you know you're experiencing. And that's something a lot of people do. They're like, they go to their doctor, they're like, I think I feel dizzy. And the doctor will be like, no, you don't feel dizzy. You're fine. Because what you're doing is you're putting your health back in your doctor's hand. If you go up to your doctor, I actually feel dizzy. This is not making me feel right. Then the change has to happen. And I've seen it with a lot of people. Like, I've got a friend of mine, like she used to be on 1.5 liters of morphine every month. So that worked out to 45 ml of morphine every single day. Now, I personally don't even understand how you could even take that much, but that's what she was taking. We managed to take her off of it. And guess what? When we got her off of it, it's not that she lost her life. She gained her life. So there are things which she couldn't do when she was on morphine. Why? Because it was such a disruptor to her day. Like, sit and read her kid a bedtime story at 9 o'clock at night, because by 9 o'clock at night, her vision was so skewed and her body was so destroyed from the day of morphine that she was numb. Like she felt nothing. Like little things like walking up the stairs by herself, because when she was on morphine, she was always dizzy. And she used to walk up the stairs and then fall down them. And she used to fall down the stairs a lot and cause herself a lot of injuries. And what happened is, as soon as she went off the morphine, she realized actually she's not as injured as she thought she was, because she doesn't fall down the stairs 3 times a day. And all of these little things came into play. And it's kind of like, oh God, you know, maybe she actually was all right 5 years ago, but 5 years ago, she was caught in this trap of what the actual drugs do. And the same thing happens to...
And look what they do to the old people. Look what they do to the old people as soon as they put them into that cycle. They're like, oh, do you want this? Do you want the morphine's patch? Do you want... And it's like, I think it's almost like our medical system, our political system, our everything system is like a broken old car that your mate takes to the garage and comes back and says, I only need to spend another £500 on my car and it'll be fixed. And you say, but your car's only worth £500. And he says, yeah, but I've already spent £2,000 on it, so I don't want to lose the car. And he's like, that's where we're at with our system. It's broken. The NHS, the wheels have fallen off. It's like, it's on the floor. And it's like, oh, but can we fix it? Well, how about we just learn from the mistakes and make something that's better? And there are integrated systems. There was a great clinic in Stourbridge that had the doctor's surgery on the bottom and then alternative on the top. So he sent for things like massage, acupuncture. You've got to remember, before the 50s, doctors learned massage. It was part of their training. Massage was in, and it was one of the things that I came away from my holistic medicine was saying, massages are fantastic. I love them. They're vital to health. Why aren't we doing this every week religiously? Like, we should all be going for a massage once a week or at least once a month. And that will help us to stay healthy. There's loads of benefits of having a massage, and it's enjoyable, and it should be part of our culture. It's part of like Balinese culture, Thailand culture, and we've lost it. And there's all these tools. And I believe, I mean, I'm not anti-doctor. I don't want to say don't go to the doctors, But instead of looking at the doctor as the be all and end all to your health problems, he's just another tool in the tool bag that sometimes you need to go and see. Sometimes you need the doctor. If you've got a rash or a bump or a lump or you need to go and see the doctor. But also, if you've got a problem and you've got a toolkit of aromatherapy oils, massage, yoga, acupuncture, chiropractic, do you always have to go to the doctor first? It depends, and it's your own choice of which tool you choose to pick at that moment for what ailment. And if we get back into that mindset, it's going to empower everybody and create a system that wants good services, because people choose the services they go to rather than just thinking they go to the doctor and they get it for free. You don't get it for free. You do not get this medicine for free. It's off your national insurance company. It gets paid for. This medicine it gets paid for through the system, but it's still not free. We had a client, in one of our first ever clients. She had 13 rounds of chemotherapy. She kept having cancer that moved all over her body. She started with the breast, then she had a lung, then she had a bone, then she had moved all over her body. And she had 13 rounds of chemotherapy at £32,000 per round. That's over £600,000 that they've spent on her on chemotherapy that's failed out, that's given her a terrible quality of life, and that hasn't worked, So, and she said, could you imagine what would have happened if I'd have had £600,000 to go and do what I wanted to do? I'd have come back feeling better. I'd have gone on holiday. I'd have gone to a spa. I'd have put myself in a retreat. I'd have got the best medicine and the best vitamins and the best juicer and the best personal trainer. And if I had that money and that freedom and that time that they spent on me anyway, I'd have got well.
Would she?
See, well, I think so.
It would have been in her hands, I think she'd have had more of a chance, at least, because did the chemo work? Well,
and I do understand. I understand what Ria's saying. We're so
no, I get that. I understand too. But
in the UK,
put the other side of the coin as well.
No, but in the UK, a lot of these other treatments aren't offered. So, like proton therapy. Proton therapy is massive in Europe now for cancers. Doesn't exist here. Yeah, like there immunotherapy. Massive in Europe now, doesn't exist here. And what happens in the UK is like we have chemo, all right, you have the pill, you have the radiation, and that's basically it. You have one option if you have cancer. So that whole idea is would she get better? We'll actually never know, but chances are of yes, because there are loads of people who have had cancer who have cured themselves away from chemo. There are loads of people who have had chemo and it's cured them. But we do know that there are other options out there. And from the 85 shows we've had so many people failed by the conventional system.
I think also if she'd have died with £600,000 that she spent in her own way and had whatever she wanted, I think she'd have felt more empowered rather than feeling like she.
Well, that's a totally different argument. Yeah, you won't argue. You won't find an argument with me on that. Obviously, give somebody 600 grand. Say, well, chances are you may or you may not die, but here's 600 grand. Have a great time.
Go and live.
Sure, they're going to have a better time than traipsing to and back from the chemo suite. Obviously, I mean that.
I have a question for you, Ria. Yeah. I have a question for you. So I actually wrote this one. I was saying, so do you think that because global attitudes towards cannabis are changing, it has increased awareness into other functional herbology, mycology, and other plant-based therapies? So do you think that the last 5 years, which we've had in the UK of CBD this, CBD that, cannabis this, cannabis that, has also opened eyes to things like ashwagandha and shatavari and, like I said, these functional mushrooms, which are getting very popular? Do you reckon that it was almost the first brick in the wall of non-conventional popular commercial non-conventional medicine?
Well, I think what happened was there was a big pullback about 2015 with Codex Alimentarius, where they writ all the herbs and made certain herbs unavailable to alternative. Well, you can't get them all, things like St. John's wort, and they made certain herbs unaccessible. So herbs have been taken away, but simultaneously, companies that have got the cannabis license have obviously got a narcotics license, and within that narcotics license has come in the category of psychedelic mushrooms, MDMA, ketamines also been used. So because they've had to get a narcotics license, it's opened up the door to other things.
I'm also talking non-psychotropic. So I'm talking, let's say, like the non-psychotropic herbs, things like the St. John's wort, things like I said, ashwagandha, things like other adaptogenic herbs, other nootropics, other nutraceuticals, essential oils, etc., etc. Do you think that because, the average individual has been like, I'll try an MCT oil and CBD. Do you reckon now they're more likely to try other things, because herbology has been around for years, this whole idea of, herbal therapies. The shops have been around for years, but a lot of people never walked into them. It's like, I feel like Holland and Barrett has become more popular since CBD has become more popular.
I think it's interesting because even the word gateway, like this word gateway has been the slanderous word for cannabis for all these years. And actually it's going to be the gateway to all the things we want, which is natural healthcare, alternative medicine, patient declaration. So people not only self-declare what's wrong with them, but they also choose their own medicine of how to deal with. So if you say I'm depressed, you don't need to go to a doctor and say I'm depressed for the doctor to give you a tablet. You say I'm depressed, so then I'm going to go and find a remedy, whether it's herbal, whether it's aromatherapy, whether it's treatment, whether it's psychotherapy, whatever it is.
Or exercise, yeah.
Or whatever it is, I'm going to find the thing that's going to help me. And I don't need a third party to tell me that I believe this is what I've got, especially with undiagnosed things. So like depression is a great example of a symptomless, like there was a big push on doctors trying to push antidepressants for a while for loads of different reasons. Like people who go to doctors for period pains and come out with antidepressants and things. It wouldn't even necessarily be the current. So there's and then they've got terrible side effects and really long-term side effects. I've got a good close friend of mine, been on them for 21 years, and he really suffers. He can't come off them. He gets really terrible bouts of depression about being on the tablets. So the whole thing is just a terrible cycle. Whereas what the herbs do, again, the herbs deal with the cause of the problem. So all of the alternative modalities that I've looked at, it's all about getting to the root of the problem rather than constantly dealing with the symptom. So the whole system is inverted. It does it backwards. In Chinese medicine, you pay the doctor when you're well, and when you're sick, you don't pay him. If anybody in the household is sick, you don't pay the doctor, and then the doctor's incentive is to keep you all healthy rather than the incentivization of sickness, because that's what we're in the current system is doctors are incentivized to sell you this stuff that is in this loop of a customer. Again, the client called it a customer lost, because at the end of the day, it's all accounting. Do you know what I mean? This is an accountable system. This is money, and this is where the cannabis industry is trying to fit this gap. And there's a lot going on. I
have actually seen this. Okay, and I'm not saying it's so extreme, but I have seen this where, my doctor doesn't do it, God bless him. But I mean, I've seen it with the doctors where they will push antidepressants on people, and they're like, I don't want antidepressants, and the doctor will be like, okay, fine, if you don't want my help. And it's kind of like, it's not like, there's got to be another option. It'll be like if a builder comes in and be like, it's 65 grand for the job. Be like, well, there's got to be another option. Well, if you don't want me to do the job, mate, I'm not going to do it. There's got to be a way of doing it for 20 grand. I mean, like, if I don't want the 65 grand option, there's got to be something in the middle. The same way that if you go to a restaurant and you order, I don't know, I don't want the sea bass, you must have something else. There's always something else on the menu. And to only be offered one thing, take it or leave it, kind of puts you in a difficult position. I find that modern healthcare very often will just offer you one option. It's very rare that I'll be like, here's a plethora of options. What would you like to go for? What is most conducive to your personality? What most conducive to your lifestyle? And, Russ, like when you went to the doctor last week, all right, for your wrist and your operation, you came out and they offered you probably morphine, fentanyl.
No, offered me nothing, actually.
Okay, but then you reached out to me and I gave you a whole bunch of stuff.
They said to take paracetamol.
That's all they offered you?
That took some
I thought that was fire. It's not fire. It's fine. I honestly thought she was about to set fire to your entire curtain. It's not a flame. Kids, Ria. She's super cute, though.
She's...
Luna come up yesterday and she's gone, Lockie's trying to set fire.
What the hell is that? Oh my God, I see what you mean now.
Yeah, it's not a fire. It's a feather. It looks like a fire.
That would have been quite dramatic.
It would be terrible. Literally just watch the whole place just go down in flames. It would be the worst. So Ria, two questions. Number one, what are your plans for the future? And then also, if people wanted to get hold of you, if people wanted guidance or advice, if people needed help, if there are listeners and viewers who, you know, want to learn more about the other options which are available to them, can people get hold of you?
Follow me, find me on Instagram, Rhea Green Queen. So the magazine is called Green Queen Magazine. Find the magazine on Green Queen on Instagram. You can find me, Rhea Green Queen, on Instagram, and I am on LinkedIn as well. I'm next plans on going to Berlin.
Hang on. What are you on under LinkedIn?
Rhea Green.
Just Rhea Green. Probably need to deal with that. And just say, it's a lovely feather. It's lovely, darling.
It's a beautiful feather.
Don't get involved, Ollie. Never get involved with other people's kids. Golden rule.
Is that a rule? You don't speak to other people's kids?
No.
Okay, fine. It's good to know.
She's
stolen her kid's feather.
I've stolen.
It's a nice feather.
Wow. You see the cruel, mean side of alternative medicine, ladies and gentlemen.
So, yeah, sure, yeah. You're so enlightened, one go home.
Years later in therapy, what do you think started this?
She stole my feather. She was live on TV. She wanted the attention of my feather as well.
Stolen. There you go.
Yep, there we go.
You can see how these things start.
And what I'm up to is I'm going to Berlin tomorrow, actually. Amazing. I'm going to Mary Jane and ICBC over in Berlin. Very cool. I've got a sister company called iCannalink. So iCannalink's job is doing the B2B industry cannabis supply chain solutions. So we're offering the cheapest product procurement in Europe, as well as linking up investors and industry. We've got payment gateway services, legal. So we're just trying to provide the picks and shovels of the industry and then refeed that into Green Queen Magazine. Green Queen Magazine is currently applying for charitable status. So hopefully in 6 months' time, we'll have charitable status so we can start offering kind of tax benefits to anybody who wants to forward the story of the cannabis narrative. And the whole point of the magazine is all about taking back the story. The first thing they stole from us was the story, and we need to take that back. So it's the voice. So please support us if there's any kind of content sharing that wants to happen or media partners. We've got a lot going on. We've also
in that case, as you've opened that rather marvellous door, then perhaps you'd like to do a little article about Ollie and this wonderful show in your magazine.
We can hook you up with May. We will sort you out with May and we'll get you an interview. There you go. That's how the world revolves.
Well, last question, Rhea. So we all have our own views of the industry. How would you like to see the industry change?
Our 3 pillars are decentralised, decriminalised, destigmatised. So instead of asking for legalisation, we want decriminalisation. We've got to be very careful of what we ask for. And in my own experience, looking at legal jurisdictions, all that legalisation is prohibition through licensing. What we want is decriminalisation, where people have the right to grow their own, to trade, to possess cannabis, and it's a plant and it's a human right. So just be very mindful of asking for legalisation, because that's not actually what we want. Destigmatisation is what we're trying to do for the magazine and sharing the stories, and decentralisation, where we don't want a Tesco's of weed. You know, we want to be able to celebrate these small artisan legacy growers in a safe environment for them. We don't want them to expose themselves like they have in California and Canada, and then for them to be attacked with license issues and red tape and all these other problems. We want to protect our industry and celebrate it. So we're trying to celebrate it through the women, and we've got some fantastic women in our network. We want to share their stories. So it's exciting. Please come and share.
I think women empowerment in this space is so important, and I feel like it's a big thing in America right now. It's like you're actually more likely to get cannabis investment if you're a woman, because women are very under, I want to call it, it's not underappreciated, it's not even underrepresented, it's just under-focused in our industry. And there are some incredible women who have some incredible companies, but it still seems to be a male-dominated space, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. Your whole idea of the straight
well,
and the
actually,
circle.
you know what? It's not as male dominated as you'd think. So, for example, the Emerald Cup, there's some of the best rosin categories were won by women. And I was speaking to some of those kind of extractors in Barcelona, and what they were saying was, we don't want our own category. Put us with the men. Our hash is as good as anybody's, and we don't want our own category. We can compete at top level, and they prove that in the Emerald Cup. So women are also in the back end and the infrastructure of a lot of these companies.
Ria, it's been fascinating. I love the 3 pillars of what you're moving forward on. I think they're absolutely excellent. But particularly out of everything, I've liked the show that's been going on
in the background
your head the whole time. That was a hell of a show. From the
We've definitely written a multi-billion-pound business plan with Peppa Pig on in the background. We can laugh about this.
That's the one with my friend David Graham, who is the voice of Grandpa Pig. Ria, thank you so much. Best of luck with everything that you do. Ollie, always an absolute pleasure to see you. And we will be back, all things considered, next Thursday at 6 o'clock. Until then, as I always say, please try to stay out of trouble. Bye-bye.
Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated.